Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished entrepreneur from Mumbai, India, Mr. Yusuf Galabhaiwala. Yusuf, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be on this podcast.
Thank you. Yusuf is the Director of Operations of Galalite Projection Screens. He's also the founder of Honey All Day, and we'll speak about both his businesses today. So, Yusuf, before we start talking about Galalite, tell me about your own journey in brief.
Well, see, I'm third generation in the business, and my grandfather started the business. So very early on in my life, maybe in school, I always knew that I was always expected to join,
Family business.
family business.
Hmm.
And when I started off, I was really not interested in a lot of formal education and studies and going to classes. And so what I did was I left college midway, and in 2005 I started setting up the factory in Lonavala.
Okay.
Originally our factory was in Mumbai. After the floods in 2005, the entire factory was 6 feet underwater. And since then, I was always keen, and my father was always keen of, shifting to a larger premises. And he, in 2005, he sort of made up his mind that now it's time to, if we have to do something fresh, let's start now. In 2007, we found a nice big place in Lonavala, which is a hill station 100 kilometers from Mumbai. Mainly, actually, it's known for waterfalls, and it's beautiful during the rains. But it also has industries, around 200 factories over there. And so we started setting up the factory over there. In 2007, I shifted to Lonavala. And my primary focus was what I used to basically do while I was in Lonavala were two major things. One was development of my products. Research. I used to look at what competitors are doing, and trying to see how and what we can do better. And second was Lonavala was always coming from living in Bombay, I was not very keen on living in Lonavala.
Right.
So I was always because Bombay is social, and Lonavala was everything used to shut down at 7 in the evening.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to come back to Bombay and start living back in Bombay. But because I had to set up the factory, I was trying to look at ways in which I could, create or make systems wherein the factory works on its own with reporting systems, which is very difficult given that family businesses don't generally operate
Right.
that way.
Very
So
interesting.
so these two things were my primary focus.
Fascinating. So, Yusuf, tell me now a little bit about Galalite and what is the story behind the inception of Galalite screens by your grandfather in 1959?
It's an interesting story actually. I recollect having numerous number of times I've had conversations with him while I was very young at that time. And but this story is really stuck because it's not once or twice, but he's repeated it many times. Um, Originally my grandfather was when my grandfather was young, we had a family business in which we had barges, the ships, and then so that was the original business. But then after the development of the port, So the business was not doing as good as it was earlier. So my grandfather decided to basically sell off all the barges, and he started writing accounts for a small school. In his free time, during the evenings, he used to go to a cinema wherein he used to he used to like repairing stuff. So probably, he used to look at buy spares for projectors and things like that. And his name was Yusuf as well. And so he tells me this story when he went to the country head for Metro. That time, the Metro Cinema in Mumbai was also the office of MGM. And he went, and there was a country manager, and he had to buy some spares. And Mr. Sen Gupta was his name. And he casually asked my grandfather, Yusuf bhai, screen banayega? And my grandfather casually told him, Saab, aap sikhayega to banayega. And at that time, it was very difficult to get imported screen fabrics as sample. It's not as easy as it is today, that like getting something, you FedEx it or DHL it. And so it was so he presented him with a sample, which was of course cotton screens at that time. And he presented it with a sample which was white and fabric. I mean, general cotton has a tendency to create a moiry effect when light is projected, and this did not have that. So my grandfather went around in the market, went to a few mills in Parel at that time, and asked them if they could recreate such a surface, such a fabric. And he convinced one of those people to make a certain MOQ. The MOQ otherwise would have been a very large, a quantity. But when it comes to cinema screen, it would, he would have, he told that it was not much, because cinema screens were large. And so that's how he, got the fabric made. He presented that sample to Mr. Sen Gupta, and Sen Gupta was extremely happy. And MGM at that time was the local not distributor, but local partner for a projector company called Vestrex. And so and that's how the business started. So he made the first screen at home, and
as they say, the rest is history.
Yes, and then he used to promote wherever there were Vestrex projectors, they used to use our screens. So basically, all in all, it is like what I would now put it in a shorter words is that we started off because of a lull for good quality screens, projection screens.
Fantastic, thank you. And after this amazing story, you Yusuf have stepped into the big shoes of the founder Yusuf, your grandfather. How have you introduced modernization, and how have you transitioned from cotton to other materials that you use in Galalite screens?
Well, the transition majorly happened during my father's time. His working style was extremely similar, like how mine is, wherein he did a lot of R&D. He used to travel the world in finding newer materials and newer fabrics, and the major transition happened during his era, wherein he automated the India's first perforating machine, which the screen has got certain perforations. And the automated perforating machine came in 1987, the same year that I was born. And so that was gotten by it was a German machine, and my father basically installed that. And so a lot of automation in terms of machinery and processes, in manufacturing processes, and R&D happened during my father's time. When I joined, there was a project, there was a file that that my father handed over, and he told that this is an R&D project which I'm doing, but it was something that he told that, why don't you just look at it and see if this interests you. And this was the development of coated surfaces. So basically it was paint development, pigment development, to increase reflection on the screen, but at the same time diffuse that light. So that is what I started focusing on when I joined the business. See, basically what projection screen is, it should reflect the image that is being projected on, but at the same time, it should also diffuse the light. Because if the reflection is very strong, it creates a hotspot. It is like a mirror, but a diffused mirror is, if I can put it in correct terms. So when I joined, then I did a course on paint technology. I started, taking this project ahead, and so basically when I joined in 2007, in 2009 we had our own coating facility, in the only Indian company. Still today, we are the only Indian company to have a coating facility for projection screens. And in fact, the only Indian company in the world to have coating a coating screen facility in house.
Amazing. So my next question, Yusuf, is that, with the gradual transformation to digital cinema, to watching everything on small screens and now the phones, how have you taken Galalite to the next phase of your own growth?
When it comes to, I always this question has been asked a lot. I mean, of course, not on a podcast, but also my friends, and they always ask me that now everything is on on phones, and everybody is watching things on their televisions. And the comparison that I always give them is, it's like consuming of content has increased now. And it is always like, ordering food at home and going to a restaurant.
Right.
So just because of the ordering of food at home, the convenience of that has not stopped people from going out to restaurants. It has only enhanced the experience, because then it makes it all the more special. So I think cinema going is something which is very different. I mean, just last weekend, I was home, watching a film, and there are so many disturbances because there is a phone and there is somebody who calls. So you have that option of pausing and restarting after. But when you go to a cinema, you are always so involved in the movie, and everybody around you, and even you are aware that these 3 hours or 2 hours, I'm in a movie, I'm in a cinema hall, and nothing has to disturb. So it's like more. It's like going to a restaurant again, and doing at home.
What a great response. Thank you. But at the same time, Yusuf, you also launched Lumina screens, which is for the home theater segment.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Lumina, and what was the motivation to also cater, to use your own terms, to the home delivery segment?
Well, I would not give myself credit for Lumina because in 1993, with the launch of, I think around 93, 94, 95, around that time, with the launch of cassette players that had come into India, cinemas had started taking a little beating at that time. I was too young, but this is a story that my father has told me, and so he told me that there were times wherein there would not be a single phone call. And so at that time, what we started getting into was we started supplying surfaces. I mean, the same projection screen surfaces in smaller format for simulation and trainings in military. Now, over a period of time, with practice around 6-7 months, 8 months, we started understanding when I earlier mentioned that he used to travel the world. So he came across a mechanism where which is now very common, but in those days, to bring it into India was very new. Was rolling fabrics correctly on a tube and with a motor inside. So motorization of screens, and so he started developing that, and we were I think we were one of the largest, in fact, companies to have motorized screens manufactured in-house using everything. So that's the foray into home theater segment. At in 90, I think 97, 98, we were doing. There were companies such as HCL, which are still there, and then so a lot of other such companies who used to buy these screens for their conferences, and we used to supply to them at very heavily. Now, in 2000, 2002, around that time, when the Chinese screens started coming in, cheaper screens started coming in, the projection screen market at that time, again, the home theater screen market at that time, was not doing very well, simply because people were of a view that the projector is the main hero of a setup and not the screen.
Correct.
And that is also the time where I had started taking a little interest. And so when I basically joined, I discontinued that division absolutely and started focusing only on cinema. And when in 2015 16, when we wanted to launch the home theater segment, we made a very so that is when we understood that now the cycle of people understanding that if it is cheap, you get that worth, and people actually started understanding that the screen is an important role. We wanted to relaunch the home theater segment. And the only difference that we made is that we launched a different brand, which is what we call Lumina screens. And that is the foray into the home theater segment. So now we focus not on motorization, but again, we focus on the surface of the screens and how that works in home theaters.
Yeah. I know, and this is a big market. I remember when I moved back from Singapore in 1996, we had brought in a home theater, and we had brought from Singapore a 100-inch screen.
Wow, yes.
But what really happened after that was that now with 65 and 75 and 85-inch televisions available,
yes,
I had to retire my home theater. But I'm sure you'll come up with something new, and I'll move to that then.
Wonderful.
But
Yes,
Yusuf, now let me move to your other interesting project, which is Honey All Day.
Yes.
Very diverse business from home theater. Unless, of course, you were saying that, when people are watching movies, they can have some honey as well. But what was the motivation to start a project in honey?
Well, Honey All Day was, diversification of business was something that we had thought of in 2017, 18. We were always looking at, we were always talking about, having, not placing all the eggs in one basket and, diversifying. And we, in 2020, when the lockdown actually happened, I was traveling with my family to, this is the first COVID wave. So I was traveling to Gujarat with my family, and I had just returned one day before, the lockdown started. And sadly, after a week, we lost, the sense of smell, and we had those flu-like symptoms, and we did not get tested, but because it was too early. And but we understood that, I mean, this is the symptoms are what they are mentioning in the media. And we started. Now we've always had honey at home. We have a tree very close to our house, and there is always a bee hive over there, and there's always guys coming from Assam and all, and they come and they remove it, they do it in front of us, so we know that. So we've always had 20 kilo jerkins at home, which suffices us for a year. Multiple. So we've always had natural honey,
right.
And our recovery happened very fast. And that is when so while we were thinking of diversification and all those things, and we were at home the whole day and nothing much to do. And at that time, if you would go to the even on internet and found out how to treat COVID at home, and so honey would be one of the ailments that you have honey in warm water and things like that. So Honey All Day was something that while we were looking at the honey markets and how to have honey and what is natural honey and things like that. I came across an article which spoke about that India is the sixth largest producer of honey.
Okay.
But the per capita consumption of honey is the lowest. I mean, it is in the lowest 10, in the world, wherein, I mean, in COVID, generally, India consumes around 6 grams of honey per person per year.
Mm-hmm.
While COVID, it increased to 20 grams. But in comparison to other countries, it is around 200 grams to 4 kilograms.
Amazing.
So, although India is one of the top honey producers, the consumption of honey is not happening.
Mm.
Now, two things for that. One of it is, raw honey. I mean, finding raw honey and, instilling the confidence that this is actual raw honey. Second thing, what as Honey All Day we focused on was making it mess free.
Mm.
So, Honey All Day initially had only a single product, which is the honey straws, which is easy to carry. You can, and it's a snackable product, wherein we fill honey in straws and seal it on both ends, and so it's easier. It's fun for the children, and and it's a healthy snack. And then we extended to honey pouches, and now we also have honey jars. But the whole idea was to get into a nutraceutical segment and business, and then grow into that, and making it fun to have honey, to basically increase the the consumption of honey in India.
Amazing. Wonderful. So I have time for one more question for you. And I'm going to now ask you this question for a lot of our viewers and listeners, and I'm going to ask this to you as an entrepreneur, as a young entrepreneur. What would you say are 3 lessons you have learned as a young entrepreneur that a lot of our viewers and listeners can take away from your learnings?
Well, I'll answer from the perspective of a family-run business owner. One thing is, one major thing that I have learned is, creation and implementation of systems to help you become free. Generally, single solopreneurs, as we may call, or people working in family businesses, start or get into the business for freedom. If someone is working somewhere and then like, I don't want to work 9 to 5, and now let me get into my own business. But then over a period of time, what happens is that we start doing everything ourselves, and the freedom is no longer there. And majorly what I see from a lot of friends and a lot of acquaintances that I meet is the lack of systems, and not only lack of systems, but lack of documenting those systems. When I use the word systems, it is a very heavy word. I mean, someone would always talk about that, this is something that it's very complex. Systems is basically a list of the work that you are doing, and an elaboration of how you are doing that work. And once you document that, you can decide what work can be delegated. And it's very easy. It's as easy as breathing. Breathing is, of course, very complex. It's very important, but it is simple. So that is something that I would really invest your time in. Creating systems is something that I want to
very well said. And Yusuf, on that note, and your amazing lesson about how systems are critical. And I think that this is such powerful advice, because based on my experience, a lot of young entrepreneurs tend to fail or stumble because they haven't taken care of the small nitty-gritties that go into building the business to ensure that your own bandwidth is freed up for running your business. Thank you for speaking to me about your own journey. Thank you for speaking to me at such length about Galalite and Lumina screens. I learned a few interesting things from you today. Thank you also for speaking to me about Honey All Day. Thank you again, and good luck.
It was. Thank you thank you for having me on this on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.